Earth's silent warning, our patience is depleting. Part 1, First Contact. The year was 2347. Humanity had spread across 3 solar systems. They had built colonies on distant worlds. They had learned to travel between stars. But in the vast galaxy, humans were still new. They were still unknown. They were still learning their place among the stars. Captain Park stood on the bridge of her ship, the horizon's edge. She was 42 years old with short black hair and calm eyes that had seen many strange things in space. Her crew trusted her completely. She had led them through asteroid storms, solar flares, and the loneliness of deep space. But nothing had prepared them for what appeared on their sensors that morning. "Captain," said her communications officer. He was a young man with a soft voice and quick fingers that danced across his console. "We are receiving a signal. It is not human." Walked to his station and looked at the data. Her heart beat faster, but her face showed nothing. First contact. Every space captain dreamed of this moment. Every space captain feared it too. "What do we know?" she asked. "The signal is coming from a ship," said. "A very large ship. It just appeared from nowhere. Some kind of advanced travel technology we do not understand." The tactical officer spoke from her station. She was a serious woman who rarely smiled. Her job was to keep the crew safe, and she took it very seriously. "Captain, I am detecting weapons on that ship. Many weapons. Their ship is 10 times our size." Nodded slowly. "Open a channel, let them speak first." The main screen flickered. Then the alien appeared. It was tall, perhaps 3 meters high. Its body was covered in dark plates like the shell of an insect. It had 4 arms and a head with many small eyes that moved in different directions. When it spoke, its mouth parts clicked together, and a translation device turned the clicks into words. "Human vessel," the alien said. "I am ambassador of the Dominion. You will prepare to receive me. I bring an offering from the High Command." Kept her voice steady. "Ambassador, this is Captain Park of the Earth vessel Horizon's Edge. You are welcome to come aboard. We will receive you with respect." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Respect is not required, only obedience." 20 minutes later, the ambassador stood in the Horizon's Edge meeting room. He was even more frightening up close. His shell was from old battles, and his many eyes looked at everything with cold interest. Behind him stood 2 guards, each carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Sat across from him, stood by the wall, recording everything. Stood near the door, her hand close to her weapon but not touching it. "You may sit," offered, pointing to a chair. "The do not sit with lesser species," the ambassador said. "We stand above them, as is proper." Did not react to the insult. She simply waited. The ambassador continued. "The Dominion has ruled this region of space for 1,000 years. We have conquered 200 species. We have built an empire that stretches across 100 star systems. And now we have found you." He paused, his eyes studying space for fear. He found none. "I bring you the offering," he said. "It is a great honor. Many species were destroyed because they did not receive this chance." "Please explain this offering," said. The ambassador's mouth parts clicked with pleasure. "You will surrender your colonies, all 3 of them. You will give us your technology for study, and you will provide 10% of your population as labor tribute, workers for our mines, servants for our cities, bodies for our war machine." The room was silent. His face went pale. His hand moved closer to her weapon. His expression did not change. "And in return, we will permit you to exist." The ambassador said this like he was offering a great gift. "Your remaining population will serve the Dominion. You will have the honor of being part of our empire. This is more than most species receive." "I see," said. Her voice was calm, almost soft. "And if we refuse?" The ambassador leaned forward. His many eyes focused on her face. "No species refuses. Those who try are erased. Their planets are burned. Their history is forgotten. The do not negotiate. We do not discuss. We take what we want and we destroy what resists. He straightened up, looking very pleased with himself. You have seen our ship. You know our power. Your small vessel could not scratch our hull. Your Earth could not stand against our fleets. This is not a choice. This is a fact. Stood up slowly. She was much shorter than the ambassador, but somehow she did not seem small. There was something in her eyes, not anger, not fear, something else, something the ambassador did not recognize. Ambassador, she said, we will send your message to Earth. Our leaders will discuss your offering. You will have our answer within one cycle. The ambassador made that clicking laugh again. Your answer is irrelevant. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. In 10 of your Earth days, our fleet will arrive at your nearest colony. You will surrender or you will burn. There is no third option. Looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was very quiet. Ambassador, you have told us what to do. Now let me tell you something about humans. She stepped closer to him, unafraid of his size, his weapons, his guards. We have been fighting wars since before we had metal tools. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and disasters that killed millions. We have split the atom and walked on other worlds. We have fought each other for thousands of years over land, over ideas, over pride. And through all of it, we are still here. She paused. We tried to reach the stars in peace. We hoped to find friends, but we prepared for enemies. We always prepare for enemies. The ambassador's eyes shifted uncomfortably. No species had ever spoken to him like this. You will have our answer, continued. And ambassador, I suggest you deliver it carefully to your high command. Tell them exactly what I said. Tell them about the look in my eyes, because when Earth responds, they will need to understand something very important. What is that? The ambassador asked. Smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something the other person did not. That this is your first and final warning. Our patience is not unlimited, and you really, truly do not want to see what happens when it runs out. The ambassador left an hour later. His ship jumped away to space, and across the galaxy, the machinery of war began to move. Earth's silent warning, our patience is depleting. Part 2, the Council's decision. The message from Captain Park reached Earth in 6 hours. It traveled through relay stations built across human space, bouncing from satellite to satellite until it arrived at the United Defense Council headquarters in Seoul. By the time the sun rose over the city, every major leader on Earth had seen it. Admiral sat in his office and watched the recording for the 3rd time. He was 64 years old with gray hair and a face marked by years of worry. He had fought in the colony wars 20 years ago when human settlements had battled each other over resources. He had seen death. He had caused death. He had hoped those days were behind him. Now, watching the alien ambassador threaten humanity's existence, he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Not fear, something colder, something more dangerous. His assistant knocked on the door. Admiral, the council is ready. Stood up slowly. His knees hurt from old injuries, but his back was straight. He had work to do. The council chamber was a large room with seats arranged in a circle. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat waiting. There were also holographic images of colony governors from distant worlds, their faces slightly blurred by the transmission delay. Everyone was silent. Everyone was afraid. Walked to the center of the room. He pressed a button and the recording of Ambassador played for everyone to see. When it finished, the silence continued. Then people began to speak all at once. We must negotiate, said one representative. Perhaps we can offer them something else. We should hide, said another. Move our people to unknown systems. Let them think we are gone. We should surrender, said a third. His face was pale with fear. If they are so powerful, what choice do we have? Let them talk. He listened to their fear, their confusion. their desperate hope for an easy solution. Then he raised his hand and the room fell quiet. "Intelligence officer Han has been studying this since we first detected their signals 2 years ago," he said. "She will share what she has learned." A young woman stepped forward, was 31 years old with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She had spent her career studying alien species, preparing for a moment exactly like this one. "The Dominion has existed for over 1,000 years," she began. "In that time they have conquered more than 200 species. Their method is always the same. They arrive with overwhelming force. They deliver their ultimatum. Species who surrender become slaves. Species who resist are destroyed." She paused, but here is what is interesting: they have never fought a real war. Murmurs spread through the room, continued. "Think about it. They attack with such massive force that resistance is impossible. Their enemies surrender or die within days. They have never faced a species that could fight back. They have never experienced a long war. They have never known real loss." She looked around the room. "Their empire is built on fear, not strength. They win because nobody believes they can be beaten, but they have never been tested, not truly." Another representative spoke up. "And you think humans can test them?" Smiled slightly. "I think humans have been testing themselves for 10,000 years. We know how to fight. We know how to lose and keep fighting. We know how to sacrifice and survive. The do not. They have forgotten what struggle means." Admiral stepped forward again. "The question before this council is simple. Do we surrender our people to slavery and our future to these aliens? Or do we stand?" The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for peace at any cost. Others demanded war. Some suggested compromise. Perhaps they could offer technology instead of people. Others pointed out that they had never accepted compromise before. Finally, an old woman stood up. She was the representative from New Zealand, 90 years old with white hair and a voice that still carried across the room. She had lived through wars, pandemics, and disasters. She had seen humanity at its worst and at its best. "I have a question," she said. "If we surrender, what happens to their? Will they live as slaves forever? Will they ever know freedom?" Nobody answered. "And if we fight," she continued, "what happens? Maybe we lose, maybe we all die, but maybe we win. Maybe we show the galaxy that humans cannot be enslaved. Maybe we give our future worth living." She sat down. The room was quiet. Admiral called for a vote. It was not unanimous. Some representatives voted to surrender, their hands shaking with fear, but most voted to fight. The decision was made. While Earth debated, they were already celebrating. Ambassador had returned to the home world with news of their latest conquest. The High Command held a feast in the Great Hall, eating rare foods from 100 conquered worlds. They laughed about the small human vessel and its brave captain. "She actually tried to warn us," told them, his mouth parts clicking with amusement. "As if they could do anything against our power." News of humanity's discovery spread across the galaxy. The Galactic Forum, a loose group of spacefaring species who shared information and sometimes traded, received reports about the new conquest. Most species sent messages of false sympathy. Others were simply glad they had found someone else to bother. But one species reacted differently. There were ancient beings who had traveled the stars long before they existed. They were small, fragile creatures who had given up violence millions of years ago. Instead, they watched and recorded. They were the historians of the galaxy, keeping records of every species they encountered. An elder named Calm Waters studied the information about humanity. She looked at their history. She saw their wars, their violence, their endless conflicts. But she also saw something else. She saw survival. She saw adaptation. She saw a species that refused to die no matter what the universe threw at them. She sent a message to the High Command. It was short and simple. "We have studied the humans. We recommend caution. They are not like the others." The High Command deleted the message without reading it. They had heard such warnings before. Every species thought they were special. None of them were. 1 week after Captain's meeting with the ambassador, Earth broadcast its response. The message went out on all frequencies, sent to every corner of human space and beyond. Any species with a receiver could hear it. Admiral's voice was calm and steady. To the Dominion, we have received your terms. We have considered them carefully, and we must decline. Humanity will not surrender its colonies. Humanity will not give up its technology, and humanity will never, ever send its children into slavery. He paused. We did not seek this conflict. We reached for the stars hopping to find peace, but we are not afraid of war. We have been fighting since the beginning of our history. It is something we know very well. Another pause. This is our response to your ultimatum. We suggest you reconsider your actions. Return to your space. Leave us alone. This is not a request. This is your first and final warning. The message ended. Across the galaxy, species listened in shock. Nobody talked to the like that. Nobody refused their demands. It was suicide. The historian Calm Waters heard the message and did something she had not done in centuries. She smiled. Interesting, she said quietly. Very, very interesting. In the throne room, the High Command was not smiling. They dare to warn us, one general shouted. They dare to threaten the Dominion. The sovereign ruler of all raised one massive arm for silence. He was old, even by standards, over 400 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had crushed rebellions and conquered worlds. He feared nothing. Send the Third Fleet to their colony called New, he commanded. 300 warships. Burn it to ash. Let the humans see what happens to those who refuse us. The orders went out. The fleet began to move. And on Earth, Admiral looked at the stars and waited. The first move had been made. Now the real game would begin. Earth's silent warning. Our patience is depleting. Part 3. The Battle of New. New was humanity's second largest colony. It sat on a green world with blue oceans and mountains that touched the clouds. 3 million people lived there. Farmers, engineers, teachers, children. They had built cities and planted forests. They had made a home among the stars. Governor Lee stood on his balcony and looked at the sky. He was 55 years old, a calm man who had spent his life building things. He had helped design the first buildings of New 30 years ago. He had watched the colony grow from a few hundred pioneers to a thriving civilization. Now, his assistant told him, 300 warships were coming to destroy everything he had built. How long do we have? Asked. 6 hours until they arrive in orbit, the assistant said. Her voice was shaking. Nodded slowly. Sound the evacuation alarm. Get everyone to the underground shelters, and contact Admiral. Tell him we need the Second Fleet. The Second Fleet is hiding behind the gas giant. They won't reveal themselves until the right moment. Those are the Admiral's orders. I know, said. I helped make that plan, but our people need to know help is coming. Tell them to hold on. Tell them Earth has not forgotten us. The evacuation began immediately. It was not chaos. The people of New had practiced this many times. Every citizen knew where to go, what to bring, what to leave behind. Parents carried children. Teachers led students. The elderly were helped by the young. Deep beneath the mountains, enormous shelters waited. They had been built decades ago when the first human colonies were established. Some people had laughed at the builders. Why do we need shelters? They asked. Space is peaceful. But the builders remembered Earth's history. They knew that peace never lasted forever. They built the shelters anyway. By the time the fleet arrived, most of New's population was underground. The cities above were empty except for soldiers and volunteers who refused to leave. The commander was named. He was young and eager to prove himself. This would be his first conquest, and he wanted to make it memorable. "Scan the planet," he ordered. "Where are the humans?" "Most life signs are underground," his officer reported. "They are hiding in shelters beneath the mountains." Made the clicking sound that passed for laughter. "They think rock will protect them. Begin orbital bombardment. We will dig them out." The bombardment began. Energy beams rained down from space, turning buildings to dust and streets to glass. Fires spread across the empty cities. The sky turned orange with smoke and flame. But then something unexpected happened. The mountains opened. Governor had not only built shelters, he had built weapons too, hidden deep in the rock, waiting for exactly this moment. Magnetic rail cannons the size of buildings rose from secret compartments. Their barrels pointed at the sky and began to fire. The first shot hit a cruiser directly in its engine section. The ship exploded in a ball of fire visible from the planet's surface. Then another shot, another explosion. Another ship turned to burning metal and debris. "What is happening?" shouted. "How do they have such weapons?" Before anyone could answer, the sky filled with drones. Thousands of them, launching from hidden silos across the continent. They swarmed toward the fleet like angry insects, each one carrying enough explosives to damage even the largest ships. They had never seen anything like it. Their weapons were designed for fleet battles, not fighting tiny machines that came from every direction. Drones slipped through their defenses and attached to their hulls. Explosions ripped through corridors and destroyed critical systems. For 3 days, the battle continued. The people of Nu stayed in their shelters, listening to the sounds of war above them. Parents held their children close. Friends comforted each other. Some prayed, some cried, but nobody gave up. Above them, the volunteers fought with everything they had. They operated the rail cannons until the barrels melted from heat. They launched drones until the factories ran out of materials. They died defending their home, but they took many with them. When the third day ended, they had lost 47 ships, more damage than they had suffered in a century of conquest. Was furious and afraid. "Why won't they surrender?" he demanded. "Why do they keep fighting?" None of his officers had an answer. Then the sensors detected something new. Ships were approaching from behind the system's gas giant. Many ships. Admiral had been waiting. For 6 days, the Second Fleet had hidden in the gas giant's shadow, running silent, invisible to sensors. They had watched the battle for Nu. They had seen the courage of the defenders. Now it was time to strike. "All ships," said calmly, "begin attack formation. Target their command vessels first. Today we teach them what human war looks like." The Second Fleet emerged from hiding like sharks from dark water. 200 human warships, smaller than vessels but faster and more agile. Their crews had trained for years for exactly this moment. They knew their ships like extensions of their own bodies. Lieutenant Bay flew a fighter from the carrier Indomitable. She was 28 years old, the best pilot in her squadron. Her was Ghost, because she could appear and disappear before enemies knew she was there. "All fighters, this is Ghost," she said over the comm. "Remember your training, remember what they came here to do. Remember the children in those shelters, make every shot count." Her squadron followed her through the chaos of battle. Weapons filled space with deadly energy, but flew through it like dancing through rain. She had learned to fly in asteroid fields, dodging rocks at impossible speeds. Gunners could not track her. She led her squadron toward the flagship, the largest ship in the enemy fleet, where Commander watched in growing horror as his forces fell apart. "The flagship's shields are concentrated on the port side," observed. "We go in from below. Everyone stay close." 8 fighters dove beneath the massive ship, avoiding its defensive weapons through speed and skill. They found a weak point in the shield grid, a small gap where energy coverage overlapped imperfectly. It was barely big enough for a fighter to slip through. Went first. Her ship scraped against the shield energy, sparks flying from her hull, but she made it through. Her squadron followed one by one. They were inside the flagship's defenses. "Target the engine core," commanded. "Fire everything." 8 fighters launched their missiles at the same moment. The explosions tore through the flagship's engineering section, destroying systems that had taken years to build. The great ship shuddered. Lights flickered and died. The engines went silent. Commander felt his ship dying around him. He had never known defeat. He had been told that we're invincible, that lesser species could never hurt them. He had believed it. Now, watching human fighters fly circles around his dying vessel, he understood the truth. They had never been invincible. They had simply never met anyone willing to fight them. "All ships," he ordered weakly, "retreat, return to space." What remained of the Third Fleet fled. They jumped away as fast as their engines could take them, leaving behind the wreckage of their destroyed ships and the body of their arrogance. On the surface of Nu, the shelter doors opened. People emerged into smoky daylight, looking up at the sky where human ships now flew victory formations. Children pointed and laughed. Adults cried with relief. Governor Lee stood among his people and watched the sun rise through the smoke. His cities were destroyed, but they could be rebuilt. His people were alive and they were free. He received a message from Admiral: "Nu is secure. Well done, Governor, Earth is proud." Smiled for the first time in days. "Tell the Admiral we were happy to help, and tell him this is just the beginning, isn't it?" The Admiral's response was short: "Yes, now we go to them." Across the galaxy, species watched recordings of the Battle of Nu. They saw the fleet, mighty and terrible, broken by a species they had never heard of. They saw humans fighting with courage and skill that seemed impossible. The historian Calm Waters added new entries to her records. She noted the human tactics, their weapons, their refusal to surrender even when everything seemed lost. But what interested her most was something else. She noted how the humans treated their own wounded, carrying them to safety even during battle. She noted how they warned civilians before attacks. She noted how they accepted the surrender of damaged ships instead of destroying them. "They fight to win," she wrote, "but they do not fight to destroy. They are warriors but not monsters. This is important. This is very important." Her report spread through the Galactic Forum. Species who had ignored humanity now paid attention. Species who had them now wondered. And species who had thought themselves safe from the began to hope. Something had changed in the galaxy, something that could not be unchanged. And in space, the High Command received news of their first real defeat in 1,000 years. The Sovereign sat on his throne and felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. Earth's silent warning: our patience is depleting. Part 4: The Silent Advance. Humanity did not celebrate their victory. There were no parades, no speeches, no holidays declared. The people of Nu buried their dead and began rebuilding their cities. The soldiers of the Second Fleet repaired their ships and their weapons, and the United Defense Council met to plan the next phase. "We have their attention now," Admiral told the Council. "They will not underestimate us again, which means we cannot give them time to prepare." Intelligence officer hand pulled up star maps showing space. "Their empire is large but spread thin. They have been conquerors for so long that they have forgotten how to defend. If we move fast, we can reach their core systems before they reorganize." "What about their slave worlds?" asked one council member. "Hundreds of species living under control. What happens to them?" Looked at, this was the question they had discussed many times in private. "We free them," said simply. "This is not just about survival anymore. It is about showing the galaxy what kind of species we are. We fight not their slaves." The council approved Operation Quiet Thunder. There would be no announcements, no warnings, no demands. Human fleets would simply begin moving towards space. They would speak through action, not words. 2 weeks later, Commander Shin led a special operations team to a world called Seven. It was a labor colony where they kept thousands of slaves working in underground mines. The slaves were small mammalian beings with soft fur and large sad eyes. They had surrendered to the 300 years ago and had been slaves ever since. Was 35 years old, a quiet woman with short hair and scars on her hands from years of combat. She had volunteered for special operations because she believed in doing hard things that mattered. Freeing slaves definitely mattered. Her team landed at night, their ship hidden in a mountain valley. They moved through darkness toward the labor camp, avoiding patrols with careful patience. The camp was surrounded by walls and guard towers, but they had grown lazy over centuries of easy conquest. Their security was weak. "Two guards on the main gate," whispered Lieutenant O, second in command. "Four in the towers, the rest are sleeping." "We take them quiet," said. "No explosions, no alarms. The slaves might panic if they think it is an attack." Her team moved like shadows. The guards fell one by one, silently, never knowing what hit them. Within 20 minutes the camp was secure. Walked to the main gate and opened it. Inside she found rows of small buildings where the slaves slept in crowded rooms. They woke to find strange beings, humans, standing among them. An elderly approached. He was bent with age, his fur gray and thin. His eyes held the dull look of someone who had stopped hopping long ago. "Are you new masters?" he asked. His voice was tired. "No," said. She knelt down so she was at his eye level. "We are not masters, we are humans, and we are here to set you free." The old stared at her. "Free? I do not understand. Why would you do this? What do you want from us?" Thought about the question. It was a fair one. In this galaxy, nobody did anything without wanting something in return. That was how power worked. That was how species survived. "We want nothing," she said finally. "You were slaves, that is wrong, so we are setting you free, that is all." The old continued to stare. Then slowly tears began to fall from his large eyes. He had not cried in decades. He had forgotten how. "I do not understand your species," he said, "but I thank you with everything I have." Word of the liberation spread. Human teams freed slave colonies one after another, and dozens of other species. Each time the reaction was the same. Confusion first, then disbelief, then tears. The historians requested permission to travel with human forces. They wanted to document what was happening, to record this strange new chapter in galactic history. The Defense Council agreed. A young named Swift Current joined Commander's team. He was small even for his species, with silver skin and eyes that seemed to absorb everything they saw. He carried no weapons, only recording devices. "You are historians," said to him. "You watch and record, you do not fight. Why do you want to come with us?" "Because this has never happened before," Swift Current answered. "In all our records across millions of years, we have never seen a species like yours. Other species conquer for territory, for resources, for pride. You are conquering for strangers you have never met. We must understand why." Shrugged, "It is simple. When someone is hurting and you can help them, you should help them. That is what humans believe." "But it costs you so much," Swift Current pressed. "Your soldiers die, your resources are spent. These slaves give you nothing in return. How can this make sense?" Was quiet for a moment. They were flying toward another slave world, another camp to liberate. Outside the window, stars streamed past like silver rain. "When I was young," she said, "my grandmother told me a story. During an ancient war on Earth, soldiers from one country found prisoners from their enemy. The prisoners were starving, freezing, dying. The soldiers could have ignored them. They were enemies after all. But instead, the soldiers shared their food. They gave their blankets. They saved lives." She looked at Swift Current. "My grandmother asked me what I thought about that story. I said the soldiers were foolish. The prisoners might fight them again someday. Why waste resources on enemies?" What did your grandmother say? She said I was missing the point. She said being human is not about being smart or being strong. It is about choosing to be good even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. Because if we only do good things when it is easy, what does that say about us? Swift Current recorded her words carefully. He would think about them for a long time. Back on Prime, the High Command was in chaos. Reports arrived daily of lost territories, freed slaves, destroyed outposts. The human advance was relentless and unstoppable. Worse, it was silent. The humans made no demands, issued no ultimatums. They simply came, fought, and moved on. Why do they not speak to us? One general demanded. What do they want? We can negotiate. They told us what they wanted, another general said quietly. They wanted us to leave them alone. We refused. Now they are taking everything we refused to give. A young general named Sar studied human history archives that intelligence had captured. He read about their wars, endless conflicts that shaped their species. He read about Stalingrad, where humans fought for every building in a destroyed city. He read about Thermopylae, where 300 warriors held against thousands. He read about where soldiers died for a tiny island far from home. They have spent their entire existence fighting themselves, he reported to the High Command. They are not like us. We fight to conquer, they fight to survive, and they never ever stop. He showed them calculations. At their current rate of advance, human forces will reach Prime in 6 months. We do not have enough ships to stop them. We do not have enough soldiers. For the first time in our history, we are losing. Then we must build more ships, the Sovereign commanded. We must train more soldiers. We cannot build fast enough, Sar said. And our soldiers do not know how to fight a real war. They have only known easy victories. The humans have known nothing else but hard victories. We are children playing at war. They are masters of it. He paused, knowing his next words might cost him his life. We must seek terms. We must surrender before they reach the home world. It is our only chance for survival. The Sovereign's eyes darkened with rage. Surrender. They have never surrendered. We do not know the word. Then we will learn it, Sar said, from the species we tried to enslave. The Sovereign ordered Sar's execution for cowardice. But as the young general was led away, many in the High Command secretly agreed with him. They had seen the reports. They had watched the recordings. They knew the truth. The humans were coming, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them. On a freed world, they held their first celebration in 300 years. They sang songs their grandparents had taught them, songs they had kept alive in secret through generations of slavery. They danced under open sky for the first time. Commander Shin watched from a distance. Swift Current stood beside her. This is why, said quietly. This is why we fight, not for territory, not for power, for this. She pointed at a young child dancing with her mother, both of them laughing. For the chance to see them free. For the chance to know that because of us, someone's will grow up without chains. That is worth everything. That is worth any price. Swift Current added her words to his record. He was beginning to understand. Earth's silent warning. Our patience is depleting. Part 5, the final warning. The human fleet arrived at Prime on a cold morning. 2,000 ships filled the sky above the capital city. They hung in perfect formation, silent and still, blocking the sun and casting shadows across the ancient buildings below. The defense grid activated, its weapons pointing upward, but everyone knew it was not enough. Everyone knew this was the end. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Soul. He looked down at the alien world through the main. Somewhere in those towers, the beings who had threatened to enslave humanity waited for his next move. Admiral, said his communications officer, they are broadcasting on all frequencies. They are asking for terms. Nodded slowly. Tell them we did not come to destroy them. We came to talk. Prepare a shuttle. I will go myself. His officers protested. It was too dangerous, they said. They could not be trusted, but refused to change his mind. We are not like them, he said. We do not rule through fear, we talk face to face. That is the human way. But it was not who went to the surface. The council had decided that someone else should deliver humanity's terms, someone who had been there at the beginning. Captain Park had earned a promotion since first contact. She now commanded her own battlecruiser, the Morning Calm. But when the council asked her to speak for humanity, she did not hesitate. I was there when they threatened us, she told. I should be there when we answer. She descended to Prime in a small shuttle with an honor guard of 6 soldiers. Among them were, the same officers who had stood with her when Ambassador had delivered his ultimatum. They had come full circle. The shuttle landed in the plaza before the sovereign's palace. The building was enormous, built from dark stone and decorated with the skulls of conquered enemies. It was meant to inspire fear. Now it just looked sad and old. The sovereign waited in the throne room. He sat on a chair made of black metal, his massive body barely fitting in the seat. He had ruled for 200 years. He had crushed rebellions and conquered worlds. He had never known defeat. Now he watched a small human woman walk toward him, and he felt something strange in his chest. Not anger, not hatred, something worse. Shame. Stopped 10 meters from the throne. Her guards spread out behind her, but their weapons remained holstered. She looked up at the sovereign without fear. I am Captain Park of the United Earth Defense Force, she said. I speak for humanity. I know who you are, the sovereign said. His voice was tired. You were on the ship where my ambassador delivered our terms. He told me about you. He said you tried to warn him. Yes, said I did. He did not listen. No, he did not. The sovereign shifted on his throne. His old body ached. His old mind was tired. He had lived too long and seen too much. You could destroy us, he said. Your fleet above has enough weapons to burn every city on this world. You could end the forever. Why don't you? Consider the question carefully before answering. Because destruction is easy, she said. It proves nothing. We did not come here to end you. We came here to teach you. Teach us what? Took a step closer. When your ambassador came to my ship, he told me that the do not negotiate. He said you take what you want and destroy what resists. He said there was no third option. She paused. He was wrong. There is always a third option. You just have to be wise enough to see it and brave enough to take it. She pulled out a small device and placed it on the floor before the throne. A holographic document appeared in the air. These are our terms, she said. You will release all enslaved species immediately, every one of them. You will pay reparations to the worlds you have damaged. You will submit to Galactic Forum oversight of your military forces, and you will remember. Remember what? The sovereign asked. Remember that humans tried peace first. Remember that we gave you a warning. Remember that we hoped you would listen. His voice was soft but carried the weight of 2,000 ships above. We will always try peace first. That is who we are. But when we are forced to fight, we do not stop until the lesson is learned. She looked directly into the sovereign's many eyes. We did not want this war. We did not seek it. But you gave us no choice. And now you will live with the consequences, not death, but the knowledge that you failed. That your empire of fear met a species that refused to be afraid. That everything you built on terror was broken by hope. The sovereign was silent for a long time. His advisors shifted nervously. The human guard stood perfectly still. Finally, the old ruler spoke. In 200 years, no one has spoken to me like this. In 200 years, I have not felt what I feel now. He paused. I do not have a word for it. We never needed one. The word is humility, said. It is what you feel when you discover you are not as great as you thought. It is a hard feeling, but it is the beginning of wisdom. She gestured to the document floating in the air. Will you accept our terms? The sovereign looked at the terms. He looked at the human woman standing before him. He looked at the shadows cast by 2,000 ships blocking his sun. Then he pressed his mark to the document. The treaty was sealed. As turned to leave, the sovereign called out, "Human captain, I have a question." She stopped to ask, "What will you do now? You have defeated us. You have freed our slaves. You have humbled our empire. What does humanity want?" Smiled, it was a real smile, warm and tired. "We want to go home," she said. "We want to rebuild new and plant new gardens and raise our children in peace. We want to explore the stars and meet new species and learn new things. We want to live." She paused at the door. "That is all we ever wanted. If you had asked us properly at the beginning, we would have told you. But you did not ask. You demanded, and that was your mistake." She left the throne room. The doors closed behind her. 6 months later, life had changed across the galaxy. The freed species were rebuilding their worlds. They planted their first crops in 3 centuries. They opened their schools again. Children were born who would never know slavery. They kept their word. Their military submitted to oversight. Their former slaves received compensation. And slowly, painfully, they began to change. Not every accepted the new order. There were those who wanted revenge, who dreamed of the old days of conquest. But they were fewer each year. The old ways were dying. The historians published their account of what they called the human conflict. It spread to every corner of the galaxy. Species who had never heard of humans now studied their history, their culture, their strange combination of violence and mercy. The final line of the report became famous. It was quoted in councils and classrooms across 1,000 worlds. The humans have a saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." We have learned that when humans speak softly, the wise listen carefully, for their silence is not weakness, it is warning. Their patience is not surrender, it is choice. And their mercy, when it comes, is a gift that must never be mistaken for obligation. On Earth, Admiral retired to a small house by the sea. He spent his days fishing and watching the waves. Sometimes children from the local school came to ask him about the war. He told them stories, but not the ones they expected. He told them about the child dancing with her mother. He told them about Lieutenant Bay flying through enemy fire to save her squadron. He told them about Governor Lee standing among his people as the shelter doors opened. "War is not about winning," he told them. "War is about what you are fighting for. We fought for the right to be free. We fought for strangers who needed help. We fought because it was right, not because it was easy." He looked out at the ocean, at the sun setting over water that had seen millions of years of human history. "And when it was over, we stopped. That is the most important part. We could have conquered, we could have ruled, but we chose to go home, because that is who humans are. We carry the big stick, yes, but we would rather plant gardens." Captain Park never returned to full combat duty. Instead, she became an ambassador, traveling to newly freed worlds and helping them rebuild. She met species who had never known freedom, never tasted hope. She showed them that it was possible. Married and had 3 children. He told them about the day humanity refused to bow. Became an instructor at the Defense Academy, teaching new officers about the importance of discipline and mercy. Lieutenant Bay kept flying until her hair turned gray, then finally retired to teach others her art. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, on 100 different worlds, stories were told about the strange species from a small blue planet. Stories about their wars and their kindness, their strength and their gentleness, their willingness to fight and their eagerness for peace. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity would always extend a hand in friendship first. They would always choose peace if peace was possible. They would always speak softly. But their patience was not unlimited. Their mercy was a choice, and their warning, once given, was final. This was Earth's silent warning, and the galaxy would never forget it. The end.